Let's do it.
So. How was your week, man? Or how's your week going, rather?
Oh, man.
You having a good week? I lost you. Talk to Henry J. Where'd you go? Where did you go, Henry J? Come back to me. There he goes. There we go.
I am back, my friend.
You're back.
I had to hook into the Wi-Fi. I was. Oh, we got 8 followers now. Tell them.
What's up? What's up? Hey, if you're on the show here, go ahead and say hello. Bottom right, if you're new to Blab, feel free and chat it up. Bottom right. So, how was your week, Henry? Did you have a good week? You're having a good week so far?
Yeah. Good week so far. Been working on a lot of things. Working on a bunch of deals. Doing my little side projects as I do, such as this one. Also started another website just on the side, like a little content content marketing, doing blogs for people and things like that. So always just messing around in the world of the esoteric that is the internet. So what about you, man? How's the week going?
Yeah, first full week of April. Really just trying to strategize on how to crack the nut and meet the budget, exceed the budget. And I've got a few things. Hey, JD, how's it going? JD giving a peace sign. JD, fair weather.
Hey, JD.
So just trying to crack this nut, crack the April nut, trying to figure out how to eat the elephant. I've got a few things coming up. A trip to San Diego next week that I've been gearing up for, and trying to fill some breakfast and dinner meetings for that. It's a conference, or a convention, so they've got things happening during the day, but before and after then, it's like free game to try and get some FaceTime with some people. And of course, you know this. It's always better to get face-to-face because you just make a lot more ground.
Oh, yeah. So how's April starting off for you?
So far, so good. I had one guy who I thought was going to close at the end of March, but he had to run the contract through legal, and legal's going to get their hands on it and redline it and all that fun stuff. So I talked to him today. He said that he should have something back to me by end of week. So be a good week if I can get one deal closed and in the door.
There you go. Yeah, every week's a good week when you get a deal in there.
Yep. So should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the first Real Sales Talk, Season 1, Episode 1. Henry and I are really excited. This is a brainchild of ours, independently, I think. And then when we started talking, we initially, I think, connected on Medium, and then Snapchat, and then Twitter, and we just discovered that we're hustlers, and we want to succeed, and we want to pass along to others how we're succeeding and what we're learning. And so we think Real Sales Talk. This is going to be a sales show for salespeople by real salespeople, real sales practitioners. And the reason why I think this is important is because there's a lot of content out there, a lot of sales shows that are hosted by sales coaches, sales trainers, people who were in the sales seat maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe longer, and they're talking about what they learned way back when. We're going to be talking about what we learned today, yesterday, last week. So we're going to be passing on lessons and knowledge in real time to everyone who's participating in the show. So welcome aboard, everyone. We're super excited to have you, and looking forward to diving in.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add one quick thing there, Sean, because I think the awesome thing about it being on Blab is, we are current salespeople, so we're not here just sitting from the top of the throne and just saying how awesome we are.
It's not theories either.
Everybody, us to learn from people them to learn from us. So I think it's going to be an interesting show and be a lot of fun.
One big digital mastermind.
There we go. Awesome. So, I also wanted to kind of let everybody know with doing this show, one thing that's real important to us is enabling us to kind of reach out to people as we're doing new things, whether it's letting people know about the upcoming podcast. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday night. It's 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. What are you, Mountain Standard?
Yep.
So what we're doing is we're doing a giveaway for people to join our email list. It's realsalestlk.com, where we're going to be giving away the Ask Gary V book. And Sean, sorry, I forgot my back there. Do you have yours in front of you?
I got mine.
You're the man. So essentially what the Ask Gary V book is, so me and Sean, that's actually one of the ways that I think I found you, Sean, on Medium, is I think it was like the hashtag Gary V tag you may have put on the post. But who Gary V is, right? He's a entrepreneur, practitioner of building businesses, and his book is all about how to use social media to grow your business, how to use and just being a great business person, right? So not just social media, also thinking about self-awareness, thinking about patience, thinking about growing yourself as a person and things of that nature. So it's probably one of my favorite books. Favorite book I've read in 2016, and I recommend it to a lot of people. So it's going to be awesome to give away to some people.
Yep. Let us give some value to you in book form. So, in exchange for your email address, we're going to select one person a week and send you a Ask Gary V book.
There you go. Awesome. So, also, guys, wanted to let you guys know. So, we're also trying to make sure we're keeping the chatter going on the Twitters and the Facebooks and all the places that use hashtags. So if you guys are, have anything to say either, during this or after, feel free to use the hashtag Real Sales Talk hashtag on any social media so that we can see it. I personally, and this is kind of just an aside, this weekend spent a lot of time kind of diving into different hashtags. You may have seen it, Sean. And I highly recommend it to people. I think that's the missing piece of Twitter for a lot of people, finding a good hashtag. And I'd love Real Sales Talk to be one of those where like just salespeople can come and just riff about, sales, even if we're not here on the blab. So it'd be
totally
awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea of continuing the conversation on Twitter in particular because it's public. You don't have to friend someone in order to participate in the conversation. And so if you're not on Twitter, I'd recommend it. And you can utilize the hashtag as a way to meet other sales professionals that really, really care about growing themselves and that care about, wanting to be the absolute best at what they do. So use that hashtag. And that'll be a really great way to continue the conversation during the show, but also after the show. I want to do some Blab housekeeping. So some of you might be new to Blab. For those that are not, just do me a favor. Actually, everyone who's listening right now and who can, locate the message box, the chat box, bottom right of your screen. And I just want you to type who you are, where you're coming from, and maybe what you do. Are you in sales? What type of sales are you in? If so, where are you from? What do you do? Are you in sales? If not, what do you do? So go ahead and type that in the chat box, locate that. Hey, the Aussie Tour, thanks for joining. I want to make sure everyone knows how to chat and add their comments. And on that note, if you have a question for us during the show, it's really easy to ask the question. You can just type it in that message box. But if you want us to see it, it'll pop up on the left-hand side of our screen. You just have to do a \. In fact, I'll do it right now. \, and then the letter Q. And then you ask your question. How many dogs do you have, Henry? And then you hit enter, and that shows up not only in the right, but you can see the little Q and then it shows up on our side on the left-hand side so that we can better keep track of that. How many dogs do you have, Henry? None?
So my mother has one back home, but me personally, I don't have one.
Yeah. I grew up with 2 dogs when I was a kid. I had a little Cocker Spaniel, and then my stepdad's parents breeded show boxer dogs that did dog shows. So they were legit. Awesome. So we got one of their boxers. So if you have a question, feel free and type it in as we're talking. And then when we get to the very end, we're going to take some Q&A if you got it. And, maybe you've got some questions that pop up. You can actually ask them as they come to mind. And then we'll get to those questions towards the end. So the last thing that I want to do as far as housekeeping goes is let you know that if you have to jump off early or you're listening to this post, we're going to, JD Fairweather, 20 years in customer experience, 10 years in management, 8 years in consultant. Awesome. Love that. So welcome, JD. Glad to have you on. So we're going to be recording this, and then once we're done, we're going to share it out on YouTube. We're going to share it on iTunes Podcast, Stitcher, and it's going to be available on Blab, of course, as well. So you'll get to re-listen to this if you want to, jam with it in your car as you're driving. And without further ado, let's jump into what we're going to be talking about today, which is how to build a personal brand that generates sales. And we're going to be sharing some tricks of the trade, some techniques, some word knowledge that we think has worked for us, and we think might work for you as well. So the first topic of the night is networking events. This is something that when we were talking about this prior to and planning this show, you kind of had some insight on, and I had the impression that you do this really, really well.
Yeah. So networking events is something that I do a ton of. I've actually started my own networking group like outside of my business, but it's taught me a lot in terms of just going to industry networking events and things like that. And one thing I think is important that I see a lot of people do is I feel like people go there and just try to find that one person that they want to talk to and almost overlook everybody else, right? And I think there's something that they're missing there in that everybody's always watching in a way, right? So if sometimes you're looking for this one person who may be, for me, like a CIO of a large organization, but if I'm overlooking everybody else, I may be missing a CIO of another large organization that I may just not have known was there. So what I'm trying to get at is I think it's important to try to, at networking events, try to treat everybody as an equal in that time and make sure you're spending time getting to know those people, because in many cases you'll be able to introduce that person to somebody else, and that therefore is just building your network even more, right? So I think it's important to not just hone in, which I think is advice that a lot of people get and a lot of people do, but I think it does lead them to missing out on a lot of opportunities that's there.
Do you think that people end up maybe going overboard with how much they want to accomplish at a single networking event?
That's a good question. So however, just to clarify, so what do you mean, like in terms of what do you mean by going overboard? Like what kind of?
Yeah. So it's a bit of a leading question because I'll share my opinion in just a moment. But what I find sometimes is that you have people who maybe can come across as a little bit overly aggressive when it comes to networking events. Maybe asking too much initially before they've had a chance to build the relationship. Does that help? That make sense?
Yeah. So I think I know where you're going with this, and I think yes, right. I think there's a certain way to kind of do it, right? You can't just meet somebody for the first time and try to just get them out for like an hour dinner or something like that. I think you have to appropriately ask has to be an appropriate ask for the situation that you're in. Maybe it's a coffee that you ask for, just like, can I have your, email address and then therefore reach out to you. I don't think you try to go for the kill up front.
Yeah. I'm going to be very upfront about networking events. It's probably not my strongest suit. I find that I get a little bit more traction and maybe feel a little bit more in my own environment in other places, which you'll probably be able to, if we want, we can, Andrew, you got some things to add. You know what? Let's wait. So we get through all of our topics. Let's wait to the very end, and then we can take some callers at the very end when we get to Q&A. So Andrew, hang tight. We'll get to you in just a second. So I'll admit that maybe networking is not my strongest suit, but I tend to find that, and I found myself doing this, maybe being a little bit too quick to quote unquote ask for the sale, to ask for the appointment, and maybe with a short-term game in mind, and really I should be thinking long-term, like, I don't need to ask for an appointment initially. I probably need to build a little bit of rapport, build a little bit of trust, and maybe the next step before asking for a demo or an appointment to pitch the product, maybe it's, hey, let's go to lunch. Mm-hmm. Let's get to know each other over lunch. And we were doing the planning for this call. I used the analogy of like the 16-year-old boy, mm-hmm. Going for the grand slam, instead of taking his time with the chick, like 16-year-old dude wants to go all the way, like 5 minutes into talking with the girl, when really he should be thinking long-term, like as far as relationship goes. If he wants a relationship, long-term relationship, it's better to slow the roll a little bit. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So the way I like to approach it is kind of going back to that analogy, right? Try to be the life of the party, because then all the girls kind of want to talk to you.
I love it.
Once it's like the social proof of everything, right? So if I'm talking, maybe like, all right, let's throw some real names out there, and maybe they're not customers of mine, but let's say GE's in the room, and GE is obviously a big customer. I'd love to talk to GE, but the guy who works at GE also obviously going to know a lot of the other people in this room. If his friend at Hess car dealership or whatever, we're having a great conversation, the guy at GE is going to say, wow, they look like they're having a great conversation, they're having a good time. I should go get involved in that conversation, or this guy's going to end up introducing me to the guy at GE. So that's kind of how I look at him, is like, how can I make as many people in there walk away from me with a good feeling? Because I think that's how then you get that follow-up, right? So that's kind of how I look at those network events. And I am I'm trying to get business cards and numbers and things like that, but I'm trying to do it in a way that there's a genuine reason to reach out, right? So if it's just like, hey, well, we talked for 2 minutes, can I have your card? You're just like everybody else. Whereas What I think is awesome is when you've been talking to the person, and they can say, there's a lot of things, we're all well-rounded people. There's a lot of things they could say that you can say, oh, I can maybe help you with that. Maybe it's not selling your product. Maybe it's introducing, somebody else that within that industry that can then help them. So I think it's always just thinking about the value that you can add, and there's a way to open up the
Okay. So here's a scenario, hypothetical scenario. You're in Boston. You're in the same room with Gary Vaynerchuk. You know that Gary Vaynerchuk knows someone who you've been trying to get in touch with, and this is the first time that you've met Gary Vaynerchuk. Mm-hmm. Do you ask Gary Vaynerchuk for an introduction to that contact you've been trying to get in touch with, or do you play it cool and think about the long term and wait?
Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna play it cool there, right? Gary literally can't. He can introduce me, but he can't really add any value to my my walking up, right? Like he can say, hey, guy, meet Henry, and he's like, I just met Henry too, like, and then we kind of die, like the conversation dies. Whereas if me and Gary hit it off, then there's a way for him to then say, hey, meet Henry, he's an awesome guy, and then that guy will have a way larger reason to talk to me, right? So
So Chris Spear, my friend here, he's saying if it's going good and him and Gary Vaynerchuk hit it off, then ask.
Yeah. I think if you're hitting it off, there's a way to almost make it easy, right? Like, or maybe like let Gary walk away. Like you and Gary hit it off. Gary ends up walks away. He ends up going to talk to this guy. Now you walk back over. You go, Gary, what's going on, man? You start talking to him again, and then Gary naturally introduces you to be cordial, right? And then boom, you've kind of worked the room. And I think that's kind of the way I would approach it.
Yep.
But Chris, I think you make a good point there. So sometimes you do have to make the ask and go for it. But so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. I haven't spent a whole lot of time doing networking events. In fact, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about networking in this book, Ask Gary V. So I think it's interesting. I've heard him also talk about this before in regards to, well, I may be getting ahead of myself, but industry conferences. But it's the same for networking events. Like don't go in to close the sale, on the first introduction when you meet someone. Make the introduction to yourself so they know who you are, and then build the relationship over a long period of time so that when the time is right, it feels natural to ask, because you have either, you've established the relationship and it's not awkward to ask, or you provided so much value to your contact. Let's just keep going with the Gary Vaynerchuk. You provided so much value to Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know how in the world that we would provide value to Gary Vaynerchuk as far as knowledge goes, but maybe access to our network, that it's just comfortable to say, hey, is there any chance you might be able to introduce me to, Jack Welch?
Mm-hmm. So I have a question for you, actually. Makes you think. So you were saying, like, you may not go in for, like, the sale of that conversation. You'd more want to go on a lunch or something like that.
Yeah.
How are you approaching this lunch? Is it just like, hey, like, let's just go sit and talk? Or what's the reason for the lunch, I guess, is my question.
It might be a casual setting to talk about the product or service. I mean, I do think that there has to be some intent.
Okay, yeah, that's
it's not just let's shoot the breeze.
Yeah.
Like, as a salesperson, you always want to have intent and purpose with how you're spending your time and maybe the company's money. If you're paying for the lunch, but yeah, I do think that there should be intent there, but. Sometimes some settings like lunches can be a little bit more casual to so that someone's not, what happens sometimes if you ask too soon for the sale and you haven't built enough trust and rapport, that they pull back, they pull back and they're like, whoa, I feel uncomfortable. This is not the right time. So I think a lunch setting can be a really nice setting to ask, or to have a natural discussion about, how it makes sense to, integrate the product with the business and the potential opportunity.
Agreed.
Chris Spear is I know a little bit about this event that they just put on, Rockstar Auto Conference. Chris is saying that he got Grant Cardone to speak at the conference after saying that Gary Vee was providing some content. So it's a little bit of he leveraged Gary Vee a little bit to get Grant Cardone to fly out and speak at the event.
There you go.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
cool.
That using that social proof. I'd love to hear the story about how Chris got Gary in the first place to even the autograph.
Yep. Chris, if you're still hanging on, towards the end of our show, I'd love to have you join the open seat here and share a little bit about how you did that, because I think that's That's I'm going to guess that's like a virtual networking essentially. I mean, you leverage one thing to get another that you wanted. So I'd be very curious to have you talk about that.
Yeah. So
cool. Should we transition to social media?
So yeah, the natural movement to social media, right? I think something that I was, so it happened to me today, or maybe the guy hit me up yesterday, but essentially, so LinkedIn's probably my number one social media for where like business comes from. And what I love about it is you can see when people look at your profile, right? So that's one thing that I leverage pretty largely is like, so a guy looked at my profile today or yesterday or something like that, and I just added him on LinkedIn and wrote, "Hey, what brought you by?" Kind of keep it. I started to write like a long like, "Hey, you interested in learning about Zerto, all this stuff?" But I was like, you know what? The guy may have absolutely no clue. May have just on accident looked at my profile. So just said, "Hey, what brought you by?" He wrote back, "Actually, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to. I thought you were somebody else," and whatever. And then I wrote to him, "Oh man, I was hoping you were coming to learn more about Zerto, which is my company for everybody who doesn't know. I'm in software sales, doing disaster recovery software." But so he's like, he responds. It's like, "No, well," he's like, I didn't come to learn about Zerto, but you make it sound," because I said to him, I said, "Oh, I thought you were coming to learn about how Zerto can help you, make sure your applications never go down, et cetera, et cetera." Gave like our value pitch, and he's like, "Oh no, I don't even know what Zerto is, but it sounds interesting. Can you tell me more?" So I gave him a little more, and then said, "I'd love to, make it more specific. Like if you have, 20 minutes," and got a meeting just off that guy looking at my my LinkedIn. So.
Nice.
Going into that social media topic that I know we were kind of going to go into, I think social media is awesome, and LinkedIn specifically for me in my current gig. I'm obviously building on other social media platforms we could talk about, but I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
Totally, yeah. So where maybe you excel in-person networking events, I feel like I dominate social media. There's a few different strategies that I take with social media as a sales rep. There's a long-term play, where I'm sowing the seeds, I'm producing content, I'm creating content that's relevant to the audience that I want to attract. And then there's the short-term play, which is to engage with people. Whether it's go use Twitter's search and search for, salespeople or maybe it's VPs or, an ideal person that I want to reach out to and connect with. And then just build the relationship and start to embed myself in the conversation that's happening with the people that I want to build a relationship with. And Chris actually can attest to this. This is probably back in June or July when I worked at my old company. I saw the auto industry as an opportunity to grow my company's business, and so I started going on. I went on to Twitter actually, and I searched auto dealerships and auto sales, and I came across some people that seemed like they were thought leaders. Started to embed myself in the conversation, which led to exposure or introductions to Chris, as well as Chris's co-worker and colleague, Matt, who Matt just agreed to be on the show later on in May, at the end of May. So I leveraged Twitter to build relationships, which then turned into business. Their company ended up, Koenig.co, ended up buying our product and reselling it to their clients. And so it ended up being a good opportunity, I think, and all because I was embedding myself in conversation, leveraging Twitter search.
Wow, there you go. So I haven't. Oh, look, Chris still sells your old product. I haven't had much luck on Twitter, and largely or like Snapchat or anything like that to sell my current product. Largely because I haven't engaged as much with that circle, which is like IT professionals, really. Which probably is a shortcoming of mine. I think I engage more on social media like Twitter, Snapchat, etc. More on like the marketing and sales side, such as doing something like this, which I have not seen translate into any type of business on my IT side. Funny enough, though, one of my partners actually started following me on Snapchat the other day. So one of the guys who resells my product. So maybe my sales snaps will help him sell some more stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's another angle. So to date, my strategy has been long-term play. I want to build my brand. In fact, Real Sales Talk is a part of building the long-term brand of Sean, the sales freaking master who closes massive deals down.
Yeah.
I'm creating content around sales and around things that I learn on a day-to-day basis. That's my long-term play. Like, we've talked about this, you and me, Henry. I want to eventually write a book. I want to write a book about my experience as a sales rep and about my success that I've had selling. And I want to share that out. So long term, I think that's what I'd like to do. Short term, I see that there's a real opportunity to find, just like LinkedIn. I don't use LinkedIn like you do, maybe as much as I should, but I use Twitter to embed myself in conversation, build relationships, and then eventually, invite or ask people to take the next step, which might be an introductory discovery phone call or something like that. So, in fact, I think this is Andrew here, says that he closed a $10,000 deal down on Facebook, private messaging. Dude, I would love to hear a little bit more about that later on when we get to Q&A, because that's sick, man. That's awesome.
That I'd like to get on. So I have one more thing about LinkedIn that I want to advise everybody to do, especially if you're in business to business sales. So I'm not big on. I like to tell what's been my experience, what's helped me, but I think this is the one piece of like advice that I 100% would give. I got this from one of my last manager, and it was essentially add every single person that you have any type of business conversations with, add them on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are like, if I can't ask them for a favor, I won't add them on LinkedIn. But I think that misses a lot of the benefit of LinkedIn, which to me is seeing who is second connections, right? So if I've spoken to you once, I'm willing to connect with you, and then maybe I'll talk to somebody. Like, so let's say, for example, you were a customer of mine, right? I end up selling, or I end up like just talking to you. We didn't end up doing a deal, and then Chris over here is actually a reseller of mine, so we're connected as well. I'm connected to you. Then one day I'm talking to Chris, and I see that you two are connected. I can then ask Chris, what's going on in your business? Is there a way that we can do business together with you, right? But if I didn't connect with you from that one conversation we had, I would never be able to do that, right? So it just gives me the ability to know who knows who, so I can ask better questions, which has skyrocketed my ability to do deals and to build my relationships in my industry. Which because I kind of look at it all as an ecosystem, right? There's myself, there's my like resellers, because we don't sell directly to customers, and then there's just other technologies that sell to my customers, and all of them are important to me. So as long as I'm meeting people in there, I can always help out. So that's my piece of advice for today. I believe in that whole.
Yeah. You know what we should do, Henry? I think it would be cool to have some people who have like a really solid track record of leveraging themselves on social media for massive success. I mean, I think you and I have had some success, but I'm talking like, I'm talking like, I mean, Gary Vee comes to mind just because he's in my kind of world right now. But people like that who have generated millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars using social media. I think that would be really cool to kind of turn that around and talk about what techniques, what strategies did they employ to be successful.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying, and we could talk more later or whatever, but are you saying like more people who have sold another product through social media, or maybe they were a social media?
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I think it would be interesting to hear someone else's insight outside of the show hosts.
Yeah.
And, to hear from a third party person, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z, and it resulted in this. You should try this as well.
I want to make a suggestion. Can we get Andrew on here now? I'd love to hear that 10K story. I think it's very relevant to the time.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. Andrew, do you want to chime in, call in?
I don't know how to call you in. All right. Well, if Andrew can call back in, I don't know how to.
Yeah, for sure. Show callers. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. I'm gonna accept him.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew, what's going on, man?
Not so much, man. What's going on? What was the question? I had to talk to my wife about putting our son in the bag.
The dad life. Hey, man, how are you doing? Thanks for joining.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. This is good stuff, man.
So just a little caveat. Andrew is a good. I would consider you a good friend of mine. Andrew's a real estate agent in the Denver area, and he's a sales crusher, man. He does business, he does well, and he has a good name for himself in the area. So what we would like to hear from is your story about how you leverage Facebook to do that deal.
Yeah. So the big thing for me was real estate. It's a little different, probably from the IT world. Depending on where you come from, you get leads. Typically online, you usually pay from Google AdWords, so on and so forth. And the lead had registered, but gave us a wrong phone number and a wrong email. But the name was so unique, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the extra step. I'm going to go on Facebook and see if they're there. Sure enough, she was on there. So I private messaged her initially, no response. But with our follow-up system, Sean, if you remember when you were with your previous company, the team that we were, or the CRM system we were using was Boomtown at the time, had reminded me, hey, in a month, reach out to her again if you don't hear from her. So which I did. And I reached out to her again. And then sure enough, she goes, yeah, we're actually moving to the Denver area from New Jersey. And love to buy there, possible. And I need an agent. I looked on your profile. You look like you're a good stand-up guy. You have a family, so on and so forth. So that already, just her, her curiosity kind of did a lot of the heavy lifting for us in regards to, just kind of our brand itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it gets even better. And this is what I didn't want to put in a long message. She actually ended up referring somebody to me that ended up working for me for almost a year, who was just a rock star. Her dad's also buying a house from us as well. And it was just taking that little extra step and reaching out to her through a different avenue versus calling or emailing. Because if I would have never done that, I would have never had the employee. I would have never had the amazing year that I had with her friend as my assistant. I mean, just on and on and on. And her dad actually is buying a house from us as we speak.
Awesome. And
so that's like
exactly the story. Yeah,
that's like three times over the benefit. So I heard a couple of things, and just to kind of bring it back to the main topic of how to leverage social media to generate to build your personal brand to generate sales. Mm-hmm. You leverage the search option in Facebook, and you also reached out, built the relationship, and then that turned into two other opportunities, so to speak, with an employee as well as another home sale.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, and I mean, it's just I was talking about it with my team today because we have close to a team of 10 right now, from one agent where I used to be to now 10 people and growing and growing. I was like, listen, you guys got to take this little extra step. And I gave them a little technique today just to find the person with the systems that we have at our disposal. There's tons of, software out there that you can do it. If there's one, that you're wanting to look for people specifically, I'd encourage you to write down this company. It's called LexisNexis. The product is called Accurance. We pay $300 a month. Just don't license it to anybody. You got to be a legitimate business. It's some pretty hefty stuff. They do like a background search, FBI stuff, because this is what private investigators use, amongst other things that I would really encourage anybody that's in the sales industry to consider. I consider myself sometimes to be an investigator because sometimes people are so hard to track down. But in the long run, well worth it.
Awesome. That's cool. Real life story right there. That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
awesome.
for sharing, Andrew.
I'm actually happy I got to share. So thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, thanks.
My pleasure. Cool, man. Thanks so much, man. Okay. Cool. That was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was good.
I love that. I love that. Cool. Good job. My daughters just took a bath. So next topic, industry conferences. Industry conferences. You have some thoughts about this one, Henry? What have you done?
Yeah, so I'd equate these a lot of networking events. I think they are similar because I approach them similarly. One thing that I will say about like industry conferences that I think is huge, and it obviously will depend on the size of your business and budgets and all that kind of stuff. But if there's any opportunity, if there's like any speaking engagements at them, if you can organize anything like that, those are awesome. Because one of the challenges that you run into with like industry conferences is that, there's 100 people there, or, however many people there, and you can only talk to so many of them. But then they have those breakout sessions where like they have somebody talking. If you can get ahead and be able to be a part of that, it helps you get your message in front of everybody there. So I think that's huge and has been integral in terms of us growing our business. And also getting the list afterward if you can, right? All this, is negotiated before you kind of go to the conference, but huge is being, even if you don't talk to everybody, being able to call as many of those people afterward, I think really, really helps because maybe they didn't see, your speech or didn't meet you, but now when they talk to you, maybe there's an opportunity to actually show them, what you guys are doing and maybe they're still a fit. So those would be my two things that I'd say. Yeah.
So I spent hours doing industry conferences and trade shows, especially last year. I own that. Me and my friend James Garner. Shout out to James Garner, redheaded guy from Texas. Super nice guy, a friend of mine. But so there's a few things that I would say that I would want to pass along to you all who are thinking about how to leverage industry conferences. The first one is, if as much as possible, if you can figure out who's going to be at the events, that is really like the foundation to prioritizing what you need to do when you're at the event. So, just earlier today, I was looking at the list to an event that happens next week. I'll be in San Diego. It's a pretty massive event. I mean, we're talking companies like Abercrombie, Express, 7-Eleven, so some pretty big brands. And so the sooner you can get that list and start to reach out to them, maybe not with a may be with a, hey, let's get together for lunch, or let's find a time to get together at the event. But if you've never been in touch with them, that may be a little bit too fast of an ask, especially if they don't know who you are. But you use your best judgment as a sales professional on when you need to go for the ask for, like a more formal meetup. But getting the list, I think, is major key. The sooner you can get that, the better. One of the other things, and credit to you, Henry, because this is something new that I've tried with this event that's coming up next week. I sometimes you get lists of attendees, but they don't have contact information like email address or phone number. And so what I did was I stole your idea, went to Upwork.com. In fact, I'll type that in the little chat box here. Upwork.com. Essentially, this is a bunch of independent contractors who contract out their services, and so you can get stuff. I mean, I hired a Pakistani data miner for $5 an hour to go through my list of 150 people that are going to be at this event next week. Yeah, 5 or 2. That's right, Chris. 5 or 2 is a good one. And go through Zoom info and get all of the contact information for the 150 contacts. So I've been following up with them. I've been sending them emails and trying to introduce myself and establish connection. But Upwork.com is something that I'm really bullish about. I really like it a lot. And the reason why I like it so much, and I think that this is something that's really major key, like if you take one thing away from what I say, think about this. It is that your time has a dollar value, right? And so you probably, as a salesperson, maybe you're making, I don't know, $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever it is. You figure that out, like whatever you want to do this year. You divide that out by the number of months, by the number of weeks, and so on until you get your hourly rate. Find out what that hourly rate is, and then determine if you can get someone to do that work for much less expensive. And that's what I determined with this Upwork thing is, my hourly worth is $60, $70 an hour, just shooting off the hip. I could get someone to get that information for me for $5 an hour. So Upwork is another, I think, major one that I would recommend everyone take a look at and determine, can I find someone to do this for less expensive so that I can do the more high value things?
Huge. I'm happy that helped, Sean. I'm happy that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Time management is something huge we can chat about. Not today, we don't have to do it today, but I know we're kind of getting close to time. But I'm big on being efficient with your time.
Yep. Cool. Should we transition to influencer meetings?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. I'll go first. So all of these things kind of tie together, actually, these 4 topics. So one of the things that I did a couple of weeks ago, I had a trip to Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, and I knew that I was working with a couple of opportunities, relatively big opportunities for me, and both of these companies were in Detroit. Shout out to Michigan, Chris Spear. I know Chris lives in Michigan, in Kalamazoo area. So I knew that I was going to be in Lansing for a conference. Detroit was about an hour and a half drive away. So I reached out to actually my largest opportunity I have in the pipeline. It's a $40,000 opportunity if I close it down. I reached out and we're up against some competition. So I was sort of looking for some ways to differentiate myself. And so I just reached out and said, hey, I'm going to be in the area. I said in the area. I didn't say Detroit specifically because clearly if I didn't get that meeting, I probably wouldn't do either of the 2 meetings in Detroit. So I said, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Just want to know if you wanted to meet up for lunch. And so that was kind of the precipice of us getting together. It actually ended up being, I think, the entire department that this vice president heads up, which I'm cool with. Like $200 for a lunch for a $40,000 deal. I'm okay with that. That's a good return in my opinion. Yeah. So So in regards to influencer meetings, I think my advice that I would give is think not just about the location that you're going to be in, but widen the scope a little bit. Maybe you look at 100 miles, 200 miles around that area that you're going to be visiting in if you're on site, and look at your opportunities and say, okay, who's within this radius, and who can I make connections with? And for example, invite to lunch, or set up a meeting, and because my time with that vice president of this company allows me to get in the door and gain favor with that decision maker and influencer. And so I think leveraging opportunities like that when you're in a geographic location is major key.
I agree 100% on that. So I'm actually going into territory, and I know a lot of people don't know everything about what I do, but essentially I'm I business to business, and so I'm going to the territory on Monday, next Monday, meeting with some of my partners and some of my current prospects and an actual current customer. And some of the great things that are coming from this is building that ecosystem, as I talked about, right? So with these partners, I've had some deals recently that, they were, decent deals at one time, but at this point, they're closed lost because for me, they weren't an opportunity anymore. Maybe like nobody followed up with them in a long time, and they bought something else. But now they're working on a project to do wireless or something else. So I told that partner, I'm like, hey, look, I'm coming into town. I know this guy. He's looking into wireless. Maybe a good person for you to reach out to. Maybe a good good opportunity for you. So for me, it's like the whole idea, like one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So it was trash to me, in a sense, right? But for them, that's a treasure. So now they want to go out to dinner to kind of talk more about where we can help each other, right? So now they're thinking about where else they can help me. Where's there opportunities for me? So we're going to go to dinner, talk about that. Another one, similar, not the same kind of story, but they're consultant. I ended up selling them some of our solutions, and they love it. But we're going to go out to lunch next week and talk about the people that consult that can also use our product. So I think it's huge, those person-to-person meetings. Buying the lunches are integral part of that, right? Because I think it everybody's got to eat, right? So it does help you get that person to take some time out of their busy day and do a little something more fun. So 100%.
I think getting close to time here I think one of the things that I would love to talk more about is this I think human innate nature to gravitate towards people that you feel comfortable with. This reminds me of something that we dialogued about on medium.com, or maybe it was another platform, I don't remember, but it's this idea that as long as product is a good fit, the likability factor, the trust, the rapport, I think are huge advantages. And that's why like influencer meetings are really, really valuable, because if you can get face to face with someone, whether that's in person or, a video chat like this, you stand a better chance, in my opinion, of them either remembering you or thinking about you because you spent the time to build the connection and build the relationship. And so, of course, if you're working with someone and the product or the service that you sell is not a good fit, it doesn't matter about the trust and rapport, but as long as those initial things line up, I really think that building relationship with influencers, whether that's outside of your space that may have access to people that you want to get introduced to, or whether that's direct with influencers within a company that you're interested in doing business with, or that are a part of that decision-making process. Anytime that you can get face-to-face with them, whether that's sending them an email, hitting them up on Twitter or Snapchat or whatever it is, I think you're going to be at a much better advantage than the rookie sales rep who doesn't know those things.
I agree. Now, I think if Chris is still here, I think this would be an awesome time to kind of talk about how he did that with, getting Gary Vee to sign books, get Grant Cardone to come to his event.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Chris, go ahead and call in. And here we go. Accept. All right, Chris, you are live and online.
Awesome. So I'm actually sitting here on the couch at my girlfriend's house. She's like, pay attention to me. But yeah, so Gary Vaynerchuk, it's funny because I was listening to one of his books, and I see him online all the time because he's constantly posting content and constantly active. So I got on his website. Oh, he said something he was going to do. Anybody who buys 8 books, I'm going to enter you in a contest I'm going to take the receipt and enter you in a contest to win an hour with me. And I thought, man, how cool would that be? So I got on his website, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, so if I buy the 8 books, I get entered in the contest. But then I'm looking some more, and he's offering different things based on how many books you buy. And I'm like, well, that's kind of neat. And then I'm looking at some of his stuff where he does speaker keynotes, and I'm like, man, it would be really cool to have him keynote. We created a conference here in Michigan, an automotive conference. We did it for the first time ever this year. It's called the Rockstar Automotive Conference. And we wanted something big to draw people's attention. So they said, oh, this isn't just another new automotive conference, because there's lots of people that are springing up, just throwing together a conference and trying to make a bunch of money, because these vendors pay big money to be parts of these conferences. So I was looking at his site, and I put in a request on his site for a speaking session. I was like, well, let's see if we can get Gary to come to a speaking session for us. So Gary, somebody from his office contacted me and said, what do you got going on? What is it? What's the dates? And I told him, and he said, and I said, how much is it to have Gary come out and do a speaking session? And I said, we just need him to do like a half hour or hour session. He can do it like his Ask Gary Vee show, or however he wants to do that. And the guy tells me $60,000. And I was like, what? You get $60,000? Some people don't make that in a year. And this being our first time ever doing this conference, I'm like, we're not going to take in $60,000. So that's just nuts. And the guy was kind of like, well, he's like, yeah, he's like, he could do like a half hour session pre-recorded for you for like $20,000. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I think that's still a little more than we're looking to spend. I said, what if I told you I had $5,000 to work with? Let's just throw that number out there. And the guy said, well, he said, maybe we can work something out. Maybe we can do some kind of like book buy, because his book's coming out, and he's pushing his book real hard. So we got talking back and forth, and we negotiated. And what it came down to was, I buy $5,000 worth of books. He'll autograph them, and he'll do a special speaking session just for us, pre-recorded. So I got a pre-recorded 15-minute long session, 300 autographed books. I paid $5,000 and got all that. So it was exciting. I could tell all the conference attendees, hey, we're going to have this special session from Gary Vee. He's going to be in Europe at the time, which he was. He's going to be in Europe at the time, so he can't be there in person, but we got him to do a pre-recorded session, and he's providing autographed books to every attendee. So Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone had a month before. Matt Kading knows Grant Cardone well and helped promote one of his Millions on the Phone, and helped him sell some of that a while back. So he reached out to Grant and said, hey, would you be willing to help us promote our Rockstar Automotive Conference? Maybe come speak at it. And this was like a month earlier to me reaching out to Gary Vee. And he told him what the rev share would be and all that stuff. And they just kind of never got back to him on it. So I was looking after we got the Gary Vee thing locked in. I was on one of Grant Cardone's Periscopes because I follow him on Periscope. So I jump on it. I'm like, hey, Grant, are you going to come to the Rockstar Automotive Conference? And then I asked him like 20 times. I literally kept popping it into his thing because I could comment on it, kept mentioning it. And then he got to the end of his Periscope and he's like, oh, anybody have any questions about this or that or something to that effect? And I said, hey, are you going to come to our Rockstar Automotive Conference? And he said, he's like, what's the Rockstar Automotive Conference? And I said, I told him, I said a little bit about it. And I said, it's March 21st. He's like, really? He's like, email me over some information on it. So he said, this is my email address, do it. And so I sent him an email. His people reached back out to me and they were like, what's this all about? And I said, this is the first time, because we were live streaming the entire thing. I said, this is the first time there's ever been an automotive conference that they live stream the entire thing. I know Grant Cardone is really big on live streaming. He's well known on Periscope. People know him for live streaming. So I think this would be a perfect opportunity for him. Now, we've already got Gary Vee doing a special session for us and providing autograph books for all the attendees. So if Grant Cardone wants to do something similar where he does like a pre-recorded session or he live streams in, that would be cool. So, of course, Grant wanted to up Gary Vee. So he's like, it ended up working out really well, too. Grant was going to be in Kalamazoo on that same day, meeting with a big dealer group, too. So he said, you know what, I'll do it. And his people called me back and said, okay, so it's this day, it's this time. He can come in a little after lunchtime. I said, perfect. They're like, so are you going to pay for the hotel and the travel? And I said, no. And they said, all right, well, he'll do it anyway. So I was like, awesome. It all came together because of social media and because I already knew who he was. And it just worked. It was just really neat how it all worked out. I mean, we ended up not just having Grant Cardone or just Gary Vee. You know, if Grant Cardone had said yes the first time, 30 days earlier, I probably wouldn't have reached out to Gary Vee because I would have been like, we've already got our big name guy. But so we ended up having two rock stars, and it made it a really awesome experience for everybody. Grant literally took a picture with every single person, shook their hand, every single person that was at the conference. And it was a smaller conference. I mean, we only had just under 100 people, but it was really neat that he did that. He came in with his wife and kids, and it was on his birthday too. So it just made it an awesome experience for everybody. So
that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. So you leverage social media, to make contact with Grant Cardone, but I think you also used in an indirect way, like influencer meeting, like you leverage Gary Vee to get Grant Cardone. I think that's really awesome.
Yep. Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, I really appreciate you being on. Thank you so much. Personally, to you, Chris, thank you so much for jumping on our first episode, and hope to have you on some more in the future.
Definitely. You guys are dropping a lot of knowledge. I really appreciate it. So
cool.
I'll at least be attending the future
Awesome.
ones. So.
Cool. Say thanks to your girlfriend for giving us some of your time.
Definitely will.
All right.
You guys have
Bye-bye.
a good night.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up. That encapsulated almost everything we were talking about right there with Chris's story. That was awesome. So
totally. We've got a few minutes left here. If anyone wants to chime in with some questions, happy to address any of those. While you're typing in those questions, I'll just I'll give some wrap up comments. First of all, thank you. This exceeded my expectations for our first real sales talk. So thank you very much to all those that joined and stayed on and provided insight and comments to the conversation. We really appreciate it. We've actually, for Real Sales Talk, we've got 10 episodes for season 1. And so 5 episodes Henry and I are going to jam on. And then the other 5 episodes are going to be 5 special guests, 5 different special guests. We've already got 2 locked in, potentially a third one. And these are, I'm telling you, these are well-known social media and sales experts that you definitely don't want to miss. So if you haven't signed up for our email list, you might want to, because you will. Cool, man. JD, really appreciate you hanging on. And if you haven't done so already, feel free and give us your email address at realsalestlk.com, and we'll send you the record as well as upcoming events. Thanks so much, JD. Really appreciate it. So in conclusion, thank you. This is being recorded, so you'll find it on Blab. You'll also find it. We'll put it up on YouTube as well as iTunes Podcast and Stitcher. And feel free to reach out to us. Henry, do you want to tell people how they can get a hold of you online if they want to?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy. I'm Talk to Henry J everywhere on the internet. So Snapchat, Talk to Henry J, Twitter's Talk to Henry J, Facebook, / Talk to Henry J, LinkedIn. Connect with me anywhere you want. I'm pretty responsive on all. So look forward to talking with you guys about sales, business, and everything of the like.
Awesome. And the same here, like my Blab handle, Sean, at Sean M. Mitchell. It's the same for Twitter, Snapchat, I think Instagram. I used to have that one, and then I closed it down, regrettably. So it's Sean Michael Mitchell, but Facebook I think is Sean Michael Mitchell as well. So any closing thoughts from you, Henry?
No, I mean I thank everybody. I really appreciate you guys hopping on. I'm happy it wasn't just me and Sean sitting here talking. Sean, I love you and everything, but I think it's a lot more fun when we have some people here. So it's been a lot of fun. And guys, yeah, I just don't know what to say. I really appreciate everybody joining.
Cool. So next week's, let me just do a little teaser here because I think we've nailed down next week's episode. We're going to be talking about selling products and services.
Oh,
and,
look who it is. Look who just joined.
Hey, that's my wife. Hey, she's
Katie Lynch just joined too. And I saw your wife commented. Thanks,
Wait, who joined? Oh, Katie. Hey, Katie, what's going on? Katie actually is going to be one of our guests here coming up. Katie, do you know the date? I don't have it offhand. I'm sure you do. It's the end of April, I believe, the 26th, maybe. Shout out to Katie Lance. She is one of my social media heroes. She's an independent social media consultant. She runs a social media business. It sounds like something that you would say, Katie. I've listened to so many of your Snapchats and Periscopes that I think I know your pitch. And she talks all about getting social. So we're going to have her on later at the end of this month, and you'll definitely want to, if you haven't subscribed to our email list, do that so that you know when to check her out. So, all right. Thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time and your energy. I can't see or hear you. I'm on a plane. But wanted to pop in and say thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Yep.
So guys, subscribe.
Yeah, right. Cool. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful Tuesday evening, and we'll see you next week, same time, same date on Real Sales Talk. Talk to you soon.
Have a good one, guys.